everyone, my name is Jessie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a mid-month wrap-up where I go over the 5 most recent books that I have read and give little mini reviews on each. So I'm going to go in chronological order and we're just going to get right into the video. The first book I read this month that I want to talk about is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire, which is the second book in the Wayward Children's series. And I rated the first book 3.5 stars. I liked some parts of it, and then some parts of it I wasn't as crazy about, but I actually rated this one 4 stars. I enjoyed this one a lot more. I like that we focused more on the children and the family dynamic prior to the kids going to their kind of wonderland, if you will, or their made-up world. And I liked that we were focusing on characters that we had already met in the previous book. So in this book, we're following Jack and Jill, who go to a very dark, fantastical world, and I really liked the world that they were in. So overall, this I liked a lot more than the first book. Still wasn't perfect. I think for me, these books are just so short that it's hard to get everything I want from them. Like I feel like I just need more from a story if I'm really going to connect to characters or love the world and feel totally immersed in it. So I liked it. It just left me wanting more, which is good, I guess. So I am excited to continue on with this series and read Beneath the Sugar Sky very soon. The next book I have to talk about is All Our Wrongs Today by Ilan Mastai. So this one attracted me originally because it had a very intriguing and sweet kind of premise where it is a sci-fi thriller type book where we follow a character who lives in the year 2016, but his 2016 looks very different than our own because there was an invention in his reality that essentially allowed the human race to advance at a much more rapid rate technologically. So his 2016, the human race has essentially eliminated poverty, war, mental illness, things like that, and it's just a much better kind of world. However, he is not doing so great in this world. He's kind of a mess up of a son. He doesn't have a great career. He doesn't have a family or a girlfriend or anything like that. So he's not doing too great, but the world is. So he is a part of this experiment that his father is running on time travel and manages to go back in time and somehow messes up something that creates a new reality, and he gets stuck in a timeline where his 2016 becomes what our 2016 looks like. So not nearly as advanced as his reality was. And he kind of has to cope with this idea of, okay, so the world isn't in such a good place, but I am a lot happier in this reality. And how does he handle moving forward? Does he go back to correct his mistake potentially, or does he want to just stay in this new world because things are looking a lot better for him in this new reality that he's created? Overall, I thought this was a ton of fun. The writing in it is very witty. It breaks the fourth wall with you quite a bit, which I really enjoyed. And I just loved the unique format that this story was told in. I love the idea of playing with multiple realities. That's one of my favorite tropes in sci-fi, is the idea of one decision creating multiple different realities and you being able to kind of hop between those realities. I love that stuff. So I really enjoyed this. It wasn't perfect. The characters were kind of lacking in it, but I did end up giving it 4 stars because it was just so much fun. And I do recommend it if you're looking for just a witty, sci-fi kind of fun, romantic comedy almost. It's very odd what this genre is. I don't even know how to describe it. I definitely recommend it. It's a ton of fun. The next book I read and finally finished, oh my god, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This book is so long. It is almost 1,000 pages. And okay, I've had such a struggle with this series because I started out liking it, and I think my favorite book still is Crown of Midnight in this series. I thought that was the book where it started to change in tone and get a little bit bigger, but it was still contained enough where you weren't like having to keep track of all of these different things going on. And I think what doesn't help with my experience of this series is I always waited for the paperbacks to come out, which was like a year later than the hardbacks coming out. So I always had to wait like an extremely long time between books to read them, and therefore I like would forget a lot of the details from previous books, and I was not going to go back and reread all of them because they're so long. So like I overall think that this was really well done. It wrapped up everyone's stories very well. You can tell Sarah J. Maas worked so hard and put so much love into this book and these characters, and I really appreciate that. But it was just so long. Like, I don't know that it like did anything unnecessary. Like, sure, some of it could have been edited down, but I think like all of the storylines and the character arcs and everything that was done very well. I almost just wish this was split up into 2 books. There is a very clear like mid-story climax in here where it could have easily been the end of a book and we could have started the next book right after that event happened, and it would have made this story more manageable in my mind, because this book was it just felt like I was reading it forever. So overall, I gave it 4 stars because I liked it. I appreciated how Sarah J. Maas wrapped up every character's story. I loved some of the epic battle scenes are truly outstanding. And again, I like where we went with the stories and I like the characters. It just felt so long. Like I was constantly checking what page I was on and like wanting to get done with it because it was just like such a drag at some point. So again, I think it's because I didn't read them all back to back, so I wasn't completely invested in the characters and the stories and like didn't remember every single detail from past books that would make me really appreciate everything that happened in this book. So I think eventually I will go back and reread this series and read them all together, because I think that's the way to fully appreciate any series, not just this one, but any series. I feel like I really need to start waiting until a series is complete before buying the first book, because I am not a rereader really, and I'm not willing to go back and reread previous books to get ready for a new book. So I just need to come to terms with that and only buy books that have a complete series, because that's the way I'm going to fully appreciate that series and give it the best possible shot. So Kingdom of Ash, I do recommend this series, and I liked how it wrapped up. But yes, okay, we're done talking about this. The next book I read was No Exit by Taylor Adams, which was a subscriber recommendation, and I'm so glad one of you recommended this to me because I really had fun with it. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was extremely fast-paced. This story follows a character who is on her way home from college to visit her parents during Christmas time, and she gets stuck driving through a blizzard and has to pull over into this little like rest stop, and she quickly discovers that there are 4 strangers with her, and one of them has a child in the trunk of their car locked in a cage. So she knows that someone she's at this rest stop with is kidnapping a child, essentially. So she has to figure out who it is and what to do about it. And that premise alone had me so intrigued to read this book. It sounded so good, and it definitely delivered on the premise. It had really fast-paced and gripping scenes. I will say there are 2 major twists in this book. The first twist I loved. I didn't see it coming, and I really appreciated it. The second twist towards the end of the book kind of lost me. I wasn't a huge fan of the very end of this book and the direction it took, with the twists and turns, and it kind of became a little bit ridiculous to me. That being said, overall, I would recommend this. I gave it 4 stars. Thought it was really, really fun, fast-paced. It's a great winter read because you just feel so claustrophobic, like there's no exit because of the blizzard, and you just feel like so cold while you're reading this. So definitely recommend it. It did just get a little too ridiculous at the end, so that's why I didn't give it the full 5 stars. And the last book that I tried to read was a DNF for me, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. All right, you guys, I think that classics and me are not gonna be best friends anytime soon. I will say, like, I read Pride and Prejudice and thought that because I read Pride and Prejudice and was able to get through it, I could handle classics. And I don't think I can yet. Pride and Prejudice was a struggle for me to get through. I definitely had to really take my time reading it, and it did feel like a chore at times. Wuthering Heights is another one of those where the language is so different than the language we use today, and it is such a chore to read these books, in my opinion. Like, I was not understanding anything that was going on because I'm just not in a headspace right now where I want to like figure out like each sentence and what it's saying and like really dissect the language and learn it and understand it and appreciate it. I'm just not in that space right now mentally. So I just want a book to like easily carry me away and become immersed in very easily without doing a whole lot of hard work. And honestly, like, reading this book made me feel like such an idiot because I didn't understand any of the language. I didn't understand the story. I just felt so dumb. I don't know if anyone else feels like this with classics, but I have so much trouble getting through them. So I think I'm gonna start like only reading classics that are a little less classic, like 1900s and forward, only because these like really old classics I just can't do right now. I just can't. I'm having so much trouble, and like I'm so intimidated to read any other Jane Austen books because Pride and Prejudice is apparently like the most popular Jane Austen book, and I still struggled getting through that one. I liked it, but I still struggled to get through it. So I just couldn't do it with this one. And I really, really want to eventually, I really want to read this eventually and fully appreciate it, fully understand it. But I don't think right now is the time in my life where I'm gonna be able to do that. So I'm keeping it because I really want to read it in the future, but it's just not gonna happen right now. And I feel like such an idiot, but that's just how things go, I guess. Those are the 5 most recent reads that I read this month. Did you see any books that you've also read? What did you think of them? Did you agree with some of my opinions? Disagree? I would love to know, so leave your comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time.